Ready, set, draw!
Welcome back to Ready, Set, Live with all of us again. We're all back, ready to do this again. Guys, those of you who are tuning in right now, thank you so much for coming back and listening to us ramble about TCGs and Lorcana and just having a great time with friends. We really appreciate all the love and support that we've gotten from the community as a whole, and we're really excited to continue this series of Ready, Set, Live. Once again, I am Tyler, and I'll toss it over to Jacob.
Welcome, everyone, back to my voice, back to our voices. It was, as Tyler said, it was really endearing and also validating to see everyone get nostalgic over Yu-Gi-Oh! And
For sure.
Pokemon and Magic conversations in the previous episode. So we're going to have a little more Lorcana-centric discussion today.
It was a nostalgia trip for us all last time.
Yeah,
for sure.
Speaking of, whose voice was that?
That is Alex over here. But yeah, we appreciate everyone's comments, likes, and everything, and just appreciate your support. With this, I mean, we're just a group of friends and getting together and talking and just sharing our friendship with y'all is kind of what it is, and sharing this awesome new game that we're all excited about and kind of all growing together on it. How you doing over there, Anthony?
What's up, guys? But yeah, it's that last podcast. I was very excited. I was surprised at how good it was and how good it flowed. It was just like y'all said, it was just a nostalgic moment. We took a trip down memory lane as we kind of recapped on a little bit of our past together. Like a lot of it was together. So yeah,
We rented an Airbnb on memory lane for about 45 minutes. is what
We did.
Anyways, well, that brings us to our first topic of the day, the Lorcana news. This is going to be a segment that evolves over time because Disney and Ravensburger, blessed as they are, have decided to give us drips of information, not a steady faucet. But we're going to work with what we got. So the most recent thing that's occurred in the Lorcana world is the UK Games Expo. It was, as of the time of recording this, a few days ago. But the thing about the UK Games Expo that I think a lot of people were looking forward to is that it's the first big event since Gamma to have demos showcased on a large scale. And we were all kind of anxiously awaiting, what's the spoiler situation going to be?
I don't know about y'all, but I was really, really hoping for a Emerald Ruby demo deck to be revealed. So a little pared down starter deck, but there was no such
What'd you
thing.
get, Alex? What'd you get? Nothing.
Yeah. So the thing is, it seems like now we've established the fact that every single demo situation is probably going to be pretty similar because the UK Games Expo, the stuff that happened in France recently that I was seeing on Twitter, and Gamma all seem to have the exact same decks. So all the demo decks are going to be the Steel Sapphire and Amber Amethyst decks. They're pretty much the same 40-card demo decks. Even the word demo is on the back of the card. So it's not like they're exchanging those cards out with others to play test new stuff. It seems like that's a solved 40-card versus 40-card setup. So I'm not going to go into any more expos with the expectation of card spoilers, but that does lead us to what the last card spoiler was, which was Animal Companions on Instagram, but it was 3 weeks ago.
Three long weeks ago now.
3 long weeks. We haven't even gotten confirmation for what Iago even does. So how are y'all feeling about the card spoiler situation and the likelihood of what we're going to see? How many spoilers we're going to get?
I mean, personally, I feel like there's certain things that I'm looking for in the set that the question is really how many powerhouse cards have they already spoiled and how many have they not? Because obviously the game as it stands, there's obviously a lot of red power, like big red, beefy things that do a lot of really fun things and crazy things. But one of those things that you don't see in the rest of them is just that same thing. Like you're not getting that
high cost.
Yeah, well, not even just high cost, but just like splashy plays.
Yeah.
Like Aladdin does, the whole banish, if you banish one, you get two and take two from everybody. Like that's a great splashy ability. But same thing with Mulan, where if she banishes a card, then it gives all of your other characters an extra lore count in the rest of their lore. So that's a really big splashy thing. And then obviously we're still not seeing the keywords, some of the keywords that have been released on other cards like Rush and different things like Reckless and different things like that. We haven't seen a lot of that outside of the 88 that are already there.
Yeah.
So to get some of those more available.
So are you looking more? Do you think that we're going to get spoilers earlier or later? Like between now and Gen Con? Do you think we're going to get how many? Because we have like 88 cards spoiled.
Yeah, that's
this
what I
point?
think. Roughly, that's what it is.
I mean, how many days are in between now and August 3rd?
I think there's under 60 days. I think it's
like
like
58
59
or
or
so?
something like that.
So the likelihood of us getting any more major spoilers, I feel like is really low.
Really low.
I would expect maybe getting one more relatively decent spoiler before Gen Con. I think Gen Con is going to be the tipping point. We're like, oh, hey, by the way, this is everything.
We'll get to that later. What are y'all's thoughts, Alex, Anthony? About card spoilers?
With card spoilers, for me, I think we're gonna maybe get a little bit more slow drip. 5 cards semi-released at a time. I mean, it'll probably be. I don't know if there's another group like the Companions, but it could be something like 5 new songs or something like that grouped. But I'm thinking after this past time, with it being 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks, they might drop something here in a week or so, and then they might the week of Gen Con or the week before Gen Con. I could see them doing a daily spoiler, and then Gen Con, it's all going to be out there anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm on the belief of like they might do one more slow drip type thing, and then next thing you know, it's like the week of or the week right before leading up, and they're going to release a lot to get the hype going for that, and then that way when it actually comes out, everyone's going to see it anyways, especially if there's product available and people are opening packs. Like, why not get the hype before that? And then besides everyone else, all the people filming and taking pictures, getting the hype from you, you know? So even though they'll still get some hype from the excitement.
It's free
Awesome.
publicity.
So how many cards is it? 88?
88 out of 204.
Oh, so 88 has been revealed.
Yes.
Correct.
Oh,
Of the first
snap.
chapter.
Okay. So, so they're going to drop all, like, so y'all are saying they're going to, like, kind of
Slow drip.
slow drip until Gen Con and then reveal all the rest?
I'm thinking one drip maybe. And then right before Gen Con, personally, I feel like they're going to drop a lot right before the expos and all that go on, and then they just have all the events.
It can be hard kind of to tell because right now, like, we're the kind of people right now that are making a podcast centered around this game. So it's kind of hard to not to have what I call first person syndrome of like, you're the main character, it's your life, everything you're thinking about, everyone else is obviously thinking about it.
We are not the main characters.
But we are not the main characters. Ravensburger's CEO is the main character right now. And from his perspective or her perspective, I'm not sure who the CEO is, the news is already getting out there. People are already making content about the game without them saying a word. You have people relentlessly tweeting about the lack of spoilers. That if you tweet once a day about the lack of spoilers, when you would be tweeting once a day about the spoilers, they're getting the same number of tweets about their game.
That's
It
true.
really doesn't matter.
That's true.
So you mentioned a great point, Alex, and it's that at Gen Con, at their starter deck stuff, we know that the starter decks contain a pack in them, which has variants. The thing is, there's 56 people per tournament, and just by the 9 a.m. tournament, you have 56 individuals opening up packs in their starter decks, which means 12 cards per pack. So it's like, what, like 700-ish cards immediately unaccounted for, could be anything of the 204. We don't know the odds of a legendary card in the set, but we know there's not going to be a ton of legendary cards in the set. So the odds of like 1 tournament, 2 tournament, 3 tournaments by noon on Thursday, the odds of the entire set getting leaked on Reddit, Twitter, stuff like that with pictures is immense. So like you said, why not go ahead and just let the world know, and don't give just the privilege to those 9, 10, 11 o'clock people who were able to secure those early bird tickets for GenCon. Like it's everybody's game, and they're wanting to get the game in the hands of more people. That's why they limited the starter deck challenges to one person. So that kind of promotes like everybody owns this news after that point.
And if there's any extra product, the odds get even more increased.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So speaking of GenCon, Tyler and I get to announce on episode 2 to anyone who doesn't follow us on Twitter that we are going to GenCon. It was not going to happen.
Oh yeah, no. The initial
Like-
thought was none of us were going.
Yeah, like a week ago, we weren't going.
Yeah.
And, we worked some Disney magic, sprinkled a little fairy dust on the possibilities,
yeah.
looked at the, possibilities of travel, stay, the budgeting of it, and we tried to make it work, and we did.
Yeah, it was so
So-
funny when we were going through the initial budgeting. We were just like, "Can we do this?" I think we can. I maybe. Let me look this up.
Mhm.
And literally like 30 minutes later, he's like, "Dude, I think we're doing it." I'm like, "Bro, I'm in." Like, hey, just say less. We're going. Let's go.
And it's exciting because we're getting to have some of our people there. So Ready, Set, Draw is like gonna be there, so you can meet some of the crew.
Oh,
and
it's huge.
Get to know them, in person and
I
everything.
could FaceTime you if
Yeah.
you want. You can
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I
Definitely.
could meet them.
Definitely, but it's exciting because we will have some representation there, and we've enjoyed the community and getting to know everybody, and just we're all starting on this adventure together, and it's really exciting that some of our group's going to be able to be there and represent us, and I couldn't be more happy for you guys.
Yeah.
Like we're so
Oh, yeah.
excited, like
Yeah.
and we're also like secretly I need you to bring back some extra product, 'cause,
And it's
I'm addicted to this game as well already, and it's
Yeah.
not even out.
Oh,
Yeah.
and it's really funny because like, the fact that obviously this year it's just me and Jacob, which is great. But the moment that we decided that this was going to be a thing this year is like, okay, well, when is Gen Con next year?
Yeah.
Because now that's got to be the plan. Like, we all
If-
gotta.
If Lorcana has a good showing next
Yeah.
year, because we don't
Yeah.
know if they're going to have the same exact presence and stuff, but this is going to be a good feeler for like
Oh, for
how
sure.
the convention flows. I know it doesn't work the same as other conventions, and I've never really been to like a really big convention of any sort. So this will be a big, new experience for me. But I can just speak to what I'm most excited about in this, and the whole reason that I even got the idea to like ask like, could this be a possibility, was every single person that I've talked to on Twitter and the community, the content creators in the community that have been supportive of us from the very beginning. It was like totally like what I felt undeserved, but still gracious, that a lot of community content creators were like, yeah, I'll pimp your stuff. Show it to me. I'll retweet it. There were people like Lee Barbs and Citizens of Lorcana that were liking my tweets that I put on there from the very beginning before I had really proven anything besides one video, So it was really cool to have that backing, and it makes me very confident to say that like Lorcana Cast, Citizens of Lorcana, Lorcana Memes, Illumateers, Forbidden Mountain, Lee Barbs, like a bunch of people that I've met and connected with on Twitter for our channel and made connections with, built that relationship. They're all excited to meet us too. It's going to be a cool outing, an opportunity to really we have like guaranteed people we're going to get to play games with.
Oh yeah.
It's beyond just random strangers who are always
won't be
cool.
just Tyler and Jacob playing each other.
Yeah, 1v1s in a dark corner of a Gen Con hall.
Which brings us to the second part of this announcement, is that me and Jacob are not the only ones going as a part of what we consider our friend group.
Yeah.
Our friend Dylan, who is a avid watcher of the channel and loves this stuff and loves getting to know the nostalgia of us because he was a part of it at some point. He is also getting to go with us on this wonderful
He
adventure.
is technically the one who introduced us all to this game.
That's
Yeah.
true. It's very
We've mentioned
true.
it before, but we'll mention it again.
that in episode 1.
Yeah, episode 1. He is the one
If you
that
didn't-
got to introduce us to the game, basically.
If you didn't hear us tell that story, go back to episode 1 right now and just go ahead and listen to the entire thing, just so you can get the full.
Maybe after this episode ends.
You know what?
Finish this
Don't even
episode.
watch this one.
Finish this episode and then go back.
Open the
good
first
details in this one,
episode
too.
in another tab and then have it ready. And then when
it
you're
was-
done here, go over there.
it was really cool of Dylan to agree to strap himself onto the top of your car.
Oh yeah, because
and-
there's
and
no
just
space
take
in
the
that
ride
car.
for 10 hours. But yeah, so that kind of brings me to the next segment that we have as a part of this podcast. We're going to introduce it for the first time. We are calling it Hot Takes with Hades. So,
Gotta love it.
in this segment, what we're going to do is the topic of what we're trying to give a hot take on will change with each episode, but we're going to keep it simple with this one. We're going to keep it to just how we feel about the game as a whole or a card in particular, whether it's underrated, overrated, and we're looking to get some spicy stuff. So what I'm going to ask you to do is after this little segment, go down to the comment section and let us know who you think had the hottest Hades take, because I'm very curious to see who has the spiciest thing to share. All right, so I'll start us off. We're also going to keep in mind here, sorry for a little tease, I'm going to defend my hot take if you have anything to say to it, okay? And I expect you to do the same, because a hot take is nothing if it's not supported with fire, okay?
That's fair.
So, my hot take is that the 1-drop Maleficent biding her time, that is a 1-ink 1/1 that taps for or exerts for 2 lore, I believe that she will not even be a staple once the first chapter is released.
It's just
I don't-
uninkable.
Yeah, she's uninkable. Yeah. I don't think that right now, she is like the early game force to be reckoned with. And I'm convinced that after the full chapter is released, I doubt she sees play in the majority of Amethyst decks.
Okay. I kind of agree, but
Ooh.
at the same time, I feel like Amber Amethyst is going to look at that and kind of have something different to say about that, because it being a 1-drop 2 lore, like that's really good in like the Stitch villains deck where it's you're relying on that 1-drop to just like kind of propel you forward.
Gotcha.
So I agree probably in the grand scheme of things.
Mm-hmm.
But in the nutshell that is Amber Amethyst Stitch villains, I would highly disagree with that.
Any thoughts, Alex?
So I'm gonna piggyback on you.
That's
so
fine.
I agree. I think that in the Amber deck specifically with Stitch, using it to not just for its 1-drop lore abilities, but also to help draw more cards and go wide. Because sometimes in that deck, which we've seen from playtesting, is like you can get 2 out pretty fast if Stitch is rocking and rolling, and the next thing you know, like they can only deal with 1. Then you get 2 lore. I don't see it being a staple in other colors. Maybe the only other one would be Steel to block it with Bodyguard. So I mean, dropping it on turn 1, turn 2, using it if you can, and then turn 3 drop Hercules down. We don't know enough about Ruby and Emerald for protecting it, so it might be tough. And also in the villains deck, another thing to add on top is with the King of Olympus Hades, that it does give it 1 extra lore pip. So even if it's turned sideways and you have, the Lord of Olympus on there, I don't think it's going to be as stable as, like you're saying, like other people are thinking it is right now.
So on our table, I had an ice cold take, is what you're saying. Not even hot in the slightest, because you both agree with me.
Yeah,
What are the odds
to
of
a
that?
degree.
I
To a
semi-agree.
degree.
Like, I don't think it's going to be a staple in every single Amethyst deck. No, I think in the ones that it synergizes with as well. So like it synergizes with Bodyguard well because it needs protection. It synergizes with literally the villain and Stitch really
Oh
well.
yeah, no,
So
that's a
with
really,
Hades and that I
guess
think those 2 decks in specific.
It's
will
it's
still play.
tough to bring up a meta at this point.
Very
You
tough.
br- if you bring
we
up
could
the
be
word-
completely
Yeah,
wrong.
we
If
could
you
be
bring
We
up-
already know that.
Rightfully so. If you bring up the word meta, a lot of the response you get right now is
We don't have all the cards.
80 cards. You're not really going to get anything strong as far as like confidence behind discussions of meta. But my point kind of assumes that like I don't think Amber Amethyst is going to make up a huge chunk of that space, So if it does make up a huge chunk of what will be the meta, essentially,
Yeah.
then I'm wrong because it does make up a large chunk in the,
Yeah.
But my hot take is that it's not actually that good. So
that's kind of hurtful.
That's my hot take. I didn't have to defend it very much. Y'all proved it for me. Anthony, do you have any thoughts on my take?
None. None whatsoever.
We knocked it out of the park with our
completely
answers.
agree.
I got you. All right. Tyler,
Oh man. So I've given this a little bit of thought, and I honestly think that. So I get that the combo is really good between having two Auroras on the battlefield, but I think that Aurora, the Dreaming Guardian, I think it's super overrated.
Oh.
I think the card itself is good in a vacuum, and giving everything ward is great, but I think it's so easily removed, like by herself, that I think unless you have two on the battlefield, it's not that good. Like just having the one of is pretty meh.
If y'all at home could see how tightly I was clenching my jaw while he said all of that, you would know I have words to say, but I'm going to hold back. Someone else go ahead first. If you have anything else to say.
I mean, okay. With my limited play time, I did notice that, like she was very easily removed. Like I put her down, I gave her everything else ward, but it was just like, okay, cool. Remove that. Okay.
So you're on the train of actually agreeing with that.
I with my limited play time, I played maybe 2 games. So
Gotcha.
So I'll be the Hades of the group and be the devil's advocate on
Okay.
this one. I completely disagree.
That's okay. You can.
It's a good hot take. I see what you mean. My biggest defense is on turn 2, you play the Little Aurora. I don't know exactly which one it's called.
Regal Princess.
And then on turn 3, literally right after, you drop a 3/5 body that can also quest for 2 lore. Not even talking about the ward part.
Yeah.
A 3/5 on turn 3. That quest for 2 lore is the best stats on turn 3 you can get, I believe.
Yeah.
So that part right there, plus the ward being, oh, well, you deal with me. I'm going to quest because you probably don't have anything to take me out. You either use an action card in your hand, so spend your turn dealing with me, and then, okay, I ate up your action card because you have to hit me. So I think it's going to be better than we expect because a lot of times in our playtesting, it's been in the Princesses deck.
Yeah.
For those that don't know. And the Princesses deck, it's good, but it can be a little slow. But I think if it's paired with more of the go wide strategy instead of value princesses, like, I got a 2/3 body, I got a 3/3 body. I think if it goes wide, then it's like even harder.
Yeah.
Especially until we see a board wipe.
Yeah.
If we don't see any sort of mass damage, like non-targeting damage, like everything targets right now.
Yeah.
If we don't see any non-targeting damage, it could get really out of hand.
Yeah.
I could see an action card with Hades.
Yeah.
Like an action card that kind
Oh
of is
yeah,
a
I'm
blow
like
up.
begging for a widespread removal because if not, those cards like that will take advantage of.
Because there are 100% moments in like the original Hercules movie where he bursts into flames and just absolutely ruins
Usually when
Panic
he's
and Pain's
angry
day.
too.
Yeah.
And when are you most angry? When you have a board full of 1-drops and 2-drops that you can't do anything about.
So I know you're on the side of me.
Yeah,
Is there anything
so-
you have to add?
I was jaw clenching pretty hard, and here's the reason. I'm glad Alex mentioned it. Just the ward giving alone is a strong enough ability to make me go, oh my God. Because there are some things that are most easily dealt with like a fire the cannons early on, a smash early on, that once you get especially an early Aurora out with shift, but even on turn 5 with Aurora, when you've played things on 1, 2, 3, and 4, there are things that a smash or fire the cannons would love to deal with. And instead, she tanks them all. So, in a world where you have a board of pretty reasonable stuff that you just want to quest with, yes, it can still get challenged into with ward. But how many times in our times that we've tested the game, how many times have you been like, man, I'm really glad I can get this extra 2 damage with fire the cannons, or I'm really glad I can dragon fire that problem because it lets me challenge all into that. So the fact that, especially with your thinking, Alex, you bringing up the shift on turn 3, a 3/5 that quests for 2, you're gonna quest with it no
Yeah.
matter what. You're gonna get the 2 lore. The Regal Princess also quests for 2, so it's not like a huge
Because
upgrade.
worst case scenario, they're 2 for wanting you, like with something like a Challenger that does 3 damage, then hitting you with Fire the Cannons. Well, you
Yeah.
just took 2 cards, and they took 2 of your cards because you shifted on top. Okay, fair trade.
It is what it is. You got 2 lore out of it, though. You know, so you're still up. I see what you're saying, and
It's a good hot take.
I agree. It is. It is a very good hot take.
take.
So I applaud you for your hot take, but you wrong, man.
And you know what? I hope in the grand scheme of things I am wrong, but as of right
Yeah,
now,
because it is
that's
one of
where
those
I
like
stand.
bomb cards that you're saying that we've gotten. It's definitely a bomb because it's a
Yeah.
shift character. All the shift
Somebody
characters.
all the
are
shift
bombs.
characters is really
Please,
cool.
After August 18th, like in September at some point, when the meta has kind of sorted itself out with some organized play, somebody come back to this comment section, please. Set an alarm on your phone
And say,
and tell me if Tyler or
Yeah,
myself
yeah.
was wrong, please.
There's gonna be a voice bite
Either of
of
us.
Tyler saying it's bad, and then there's gonna be a montage of it.
Every time that we win a game with gameplays in August, I'm going to say, hey, Tyler, remember how bad this is? Yeah. Anyways, I'll make you eat the words if I can.
I will eat that salad if I have to, but right now I'm eating a
All
burger.
right. Well, Anthony, what is your hot take, sir?
So, once again, with my limited time of play and limited knowledge in the game, my hot take is going to be slightly different. It's going to be, I think within the next 2 years, or no, whenever Kingdom Hearts 4 drops, there's going to be like a cross promotional card or something like that for like characters from Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
And I would love that. Like maybe even the Donald from it, the Goofy from it, whatever.
That'd be great.
Yeah, because they have the Dreamborns.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
since the Dreamborns are not from,
They're
Disney
not from
lore,
Disney canon.
lore, you're
Yeah.
right. They could do a promo, basically,
right.
cross thing. That's very
It
interesting.
would be dope to see like Roxas.
I
and
would freaking love a
Sephiroth and all
Sora.
those. Oh, Sora.
Here's the problem with that hot take, and here's why I'm going to Hades you out.
I was going to say, I like it, but I don't agree with it.
Here's the problem. I have tried to dip my feet in that game, and I also know that people who play that game, and I've played all 17 of them with their awkwardly named sequels. Nobody knows the lore of that game. Nobody knows the characters' names except for Mr. Tyler. And
That's
Mr.
a different
Anthony,
podcast,
apparently.
my guy.
Maybe it's a different podcast. But that game is so confusing in its story to me. But maybe it's just a promotion to like appease some fans. But I don't see them doing any crossovers with anything Disney related for the first 10 years. I could see this
Yeah.
game being existent for a long time on Disney properties alone.
I'm gonna go with you on that as well. I don't see it happening early on because they have so many IPs and stuff to take from. They still got Pixar they can take from. They got all these other things. It's definitely a good hot take, but I don't see it happening personally. And also, like, how many years did it take for Kingdom Hearts 3 to come out?
It was a long. It was like what? 10?
That's not
10 years?
Disney's fault. That's
10 years?
Square
That's what
Enix
I'm saying.
and
Kingdom
Final
Hearts 4
Fantasy.
is 10 years from that one. So
Goodness
Still making
gracious.
four.
But that piggybacks on to the reason why I think it would happen to help push it even harder.
no, I like it. I like it. I'm just saying it could be a long time.
Oh yeah, of
A
course.
long
yeah.
time.
There is a point too that it literally makes itself that you get Aladdin, your Donald Ducks, your Goofies.
And it could
They're
even
already
be,
in the game.
like you were saying, it could be mostly like, let's say it's 5 cards. It could be 3 or 4 Disney characters, and then Sora, the main character, then maybe the main villain or something like
Yeah.
that. So it could literally be just 2 of them,
Right.
and then the rest Disney characters because
Right.
they have
Yeah.
all the Disney characters.
That introduces a whole can of worms on the whole idea that Magic is currently having a problem with their universes beyond stuff of like they had the whole Walking Dead cards that were like mechanically unique, but they were promos through Secret Lair, like direct from Wizards purchase, which was awkward because unless you buy them, then you technically have unique cards that no one else can get in packs, and it's awkward. So it's something that Disney and Ravensburger would have to tackle if that happened. But it is an interesting idea nonetheless.
And I feel like so to defend Magic a little bit. So I feel like you are absolutely right in that statement of they did a thing, they made cards that were very specific and didn't fix the problem.
Yeah.
Later, when they came out with other things like that, like that in particular, they came out with the Street Fighter set. They actually released cards after the fact that were the Magic equivalent versions of those cards that allowed them to be like, okay, we get it. We made cards that were outside of the quote unquote original like setup, but they did go back and fix it.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
I do want to piggyback off of this because you guys sitting over here, I completely understand. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. And yes, it will probably take some time.
We got some.
And I'm 100% on your side, my guy.
It's a dream. It's a dream.
It is 100% a dream. It's a good dream. Honestly,
10 years when it
I
happens, come back to the comments
yeah.
section and let us know.
In 10 years, we will have another video out specifically tackling this moment right now. But no, for real, I could see them doing like a Donald, a Goofy, a Mickey. King Mickey from that game would be so freaking sick. I would be so down for that.
Or Mickey, like when he had the little cloak on.
Oh,
like,
yeah. Like the Organization 13
exactly.
Mickey, that would be awesome as well.
These are new things to me.
Yeah.
So
idea.
the one thing that I want more than anything though is I want Sora. Because I think a shift form of Sora would be so sick,
and I'd be
just
psyched for
as
you.
a character. Because it would be the type of thing where it's all about gameplay. So you could shift, you could have the normal Sora be like I don't know, Amber, and then have Amethyst be like whatever Sora, but like Red be Valor and Wisdom be Blue, and go through all the different forms.
So there's things that exist in the game that could meld with
that
ink
they
types.
very well meld with
It's just if they
the
want to cross
different
the
types.
IPs or not.
I got you.
Yeah, but it would definitely work in the grand scheme of things of how the character was played throughout the entirety of the series, and going into like what they're doing now with this. So it could 100% work.
All right. Well, Alex, what's your hot take?
All right. For all those going to GenCon, because I'm not going to be there.
We're still
I'd
sad
love to
about it.
participate in the Starter Deck Challenge because my hot take has to do with the Starter Deck Challenge. Everyone in the community is going Amber Amethyst. Amber Amethyst. That's going to be the best deck. My hot take right here is Ruby and Emerald will be the best deck.
Okay.
I think
Hope you're right.
I think it's going to be the best deck because right now, if you've built the deck, you know, it's pretty solid on its own, and we've played tested. We don't know all the cards going to be in it, but the one card that's on the front that really matters is the Aladdin.
Yeah.
And shifting that Aladdin out and getting him out and knocking out a few characters
By turn 5.
Yeah, you're not going to have 4 of every card in these starter decks. So you may have 1 Aladdin, you may have 2 of the shift one. So same goes for Moana. 1, maybe 2. If you don't see Moana early on, I don't know if you've played with the card, but if you don't see it early on and it's top decked, it's really not that good late game unless you've already got a board built.
Yeah, for sure.
The Mickey, I think, will help carry the Amethyst side on that deck, but you get 1 or 2 Mickeys. I don't know how many times I've inked a Mickey because I've had to.
Yeah.
You know, and then how many brooms do you get? 2, 3, maybe 4.
Yeah.
But also, you're not guaranteed to have all the cards that are really good. I think that in the demos, they did have Maleficent, the one that...
The blue?
No.
Oh, you mean the sorceress?
The sorceress that lets you
Yes.
draw a card.
Yes.
And they did have friends on the other side. Those few draw cards, depending on how many you get, will carry that deck. My big reason that I think the Ruby Emerald will take the advantage is the removal. We have 0 removal for Amber and 0 removal for Amethyst. And we have the demo decks already, which are pared down starter decks. So if anything, I'm thinking they left out the big bomb cards. They didn't have Mickey in there. They didn't have Moana in there. I don't believe, did they?
Yeah, I don't think so.
So they left out some big bomb cards.
Yep.
Did they have any big bomb removal? Because if not, how are you dealing with Aladdin?
Let us know if we're wrong here.
Yeah.
I haven't played
Like I
the
said,
demo decks.
hot take.
Yeah.
Hot take. And I tried to look at it before, but also with the Amber Amethyst deck, it's been the best because you can build with everything we have available. The starter deck is kind of 2 separate strategies. Like you have the sorcerer and then you have the little small princess package in there. You don't have any of the blue princesses.
Are there any amethyst princesses?
Yeah, so
don't know of any.
Minnie.
Minnie's an amber one.
Oh no, Amber. Yeah, no, there's no. I don't think there's any Amethyst princesses. It's just villains that I
that
can
does
think
not
of.
bode well.
That's what I'm saying. So it's literally just the few Amber princesses you
even-
have, which are
Can't even
Minnie,
play the normal
Moana, and Ariel. To my knowledge, I can't think if I'm missing
Yeah.
one. But so you have a small princess package in there, so I feel like that's going to be irrelevant. They're
Don't
just
forget
gonna
Hey
be,
Hey.
Oh yeah,
Hey Hey.
Hey, the man.
yeah, hey is awesome. But so that's my hot take. I think that it's sneakily, especially if you get something like Cheshire Cat.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
I think if Cheshire Cat's available, and then we know we're probably gonna have both Aladdins. You know, Corella's in the deck, but Cheshire Cat's available, and just a few supporting pieces. I think it's just gonna quest away.
I got you.
Ravensburger,
So-
if you're listening to this, please give me a red Aladdin. Not the high one, just a low one. So that way we can put it all in the other decks.
I'm gonna make you defend it for a second because
Totally okay with that.
overall, I get you. I want Ruby Emerald to be the top deck of the starter decks. I want it. The problem I have is you said that the removal in those colors is king, or is good, but Amber Amethyst has no removal. My impression would be that the Steel Sapphire deck would technically be the top dog from what I expect, just because I expect the Steel Sapphire deck to have Captain Hook, Captain of the Jolly Roger, and Fire the Cannons. And I believe that that combination can wreck a game
That's
on its
excellent
own.
removal.
So if it gets Captain Hook Forceful Duelist, if it gets that set up, I think Steel has what it takes to mitigate a very inconsistent Amber Amethyst setup. Now, I do think that Steel Sapphire is subject to the same issues that Amber Amethyst might, in that you're probably not going to get 4 of every card. You're probably not going to get the consistency you look for. But I would say your take's pretty hot, just because I think the Steel Sapphire naturally works together really easily, whereas the Amber Amethyst, you already said, it's like kind of 2 separate strategies. My thing is, I think yours is a hot take because you made the claim that Ruby Emerald is the top.
Yeah.
Not because I don't think that Amber Amethyst
I was
is
about to
overrated.
Say, I'm glad you brought up the Sapphire
Yeah.
Seal because I wanted to have to at least defend it against it a
Yeah.
little bit. I
So
think
what would it do against
Sapphire.
them?
I think Sapphire still has a good bet against the Ruby Emerald deck. I think
Okay.
it's going to be kind of a rock paper scissors thing out there.
Okay.
I think that the Amber Amethyst, with the one thing it's got going for it is the draw power.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't seen any draw power in the Ruby Emerald, but we know hardly any of those cards. So I'm hoping
It's
that
the fewest cards that have been
I'm
released.
hoping that they each have a little bit of draw in the decks. They each have a
Something.
little bit of removal. Like I said, that was one of my defending points over there. I just think that the Sapphire and Steel deck, I think it's too top heavy once again to deal with the Cheshire Cat, because I think that Fire the Cannons and a couple of the Forceful Duelist, is that the right? Yeah, Forceful Duelist will be in there. I think a couple, but it's all about consistency. And
Yeah.
it will be for the same thing. I mean, if you only have 2 Cheshire Cats, if you draw that Cheshire Cat, you're in favor.
you're in favor.
Because what are you going to do with your Simba? Attack my Cheshire Cat? Okay, like, yay, that was a good
Yeah.
trade for me.
Yeah.
And just keep in mind that Cheshire Cat does not target, so the ward off of Aurora does not matter.
Yeah, we figured that out real quick.
However, the Corella that we know will be in the deck because it's on the front will target and bounce the Aurora. If it's 2 Auroras, both Auroras go to hand. I think it'll be a harder matchup because I think it's going to take, depending on what's in the deck, I think it's going to take a little more mid-rangey. And then I think if it gets to a longer game, the Sapphire still might pull it out. But I really think the Ruby Emerald's going to take everyone surprised by just questing.
Yeah.
Quest with my emerald creatures, use my red creatures to attack, and if there is
Yeah.
some good evasive creatures in the red as well, that's going to be tough.
In the green? Evasive in green?
No, in the Ruby. In the
Okay.
Ruby. Because right now we don't know what's in the deck, so we know the Aladdin's in the deck.
Right.
But if we get some low evasive creatures,
Yeah, like a 1/1 for
Yeah.
for 2 or something that's evasive.
yeah. So, like I said, it's really a hot take because we have no idea what's in the deck.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be completely wrong, and it could be the worst deck. But
Gotcha.
with the face cards revealed, it makes me very nervous about the Amber Amethyst deck. The draw support, if you see, let's just say you have 2 of each or 4 to 5 of each one, if you see them in your 60 card deck, great.
Yeah.
But you don't have 8 copies of those 2 cards, which the consistency will really be hindered. And like I said, green has been very annoying to deal with, and it can just typically quest away, and I think that's what's going to take it to top.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with that being said, that closes out our hot takes with Hades section. So as a reminder, please go down to the comment section. Tell us what you think. Who had the hottest take? Apparently, with how they were all agreeing with mine, I had an ice cold take. But let us know what you think, because as the community, it's not us that decides a super hot take. It's everyone that decides a hot take.
So leave your own hot takes in the comments. We'd love to talk to the community and enjoy
Definitely
a little
that.
back and forth.
So Alex's hot take did actually segue us to our next topic, and it's which starter deck would you choose based on what we know now? So as a disclaimer, we know nothing except the face art for the Ruby Emerald starter deck.
Ah, sweet. So we're all on the same.
We're all on the
field.
same page for that one. I know that Alex likes to tinker with his.
It was a hot take. It wasn't my pick.
It wasn't your
I
pick.
will say that right now.
But I think based on my reaction
Because
to
what we
you,
know.
I told you that it is what I am most excited to dive into. Ruby
for sure.
Emerald, based on our play testing and our assumptions from what's been revealed. I hope that most of the Ruby and Emerald cards we've seen revealed so far are in that starter deck, or maybe some better cards. You never know. But Ruby Emerald is the starter deck that I am most excited to dive into. What about you, Tyler?
It's funny. I feel like I have to agree with that. The Ruby Emerald deck as a whole really intrigues me. There's a lot that we don't know, obviously, about Ruby and Emerald, and with the lack of knowledge comes some initial intrigue. Like there's, I want to know.
It could be anything.
It could be anything. It could have been a boat. But no, in all seriousness, I do agree with the Emerald Ruby. I do want to dive more into that. I really like the Amber Amethyst deck. Not because of Moana. I think she's great in the princess package of Amber, and that'll take Amber places into other decks that work better with princesses. But the Amethyst side of things and the other side of Amber being the more Stitch combo-ish type stuff, I think that works more into the wheelhouse that I really enjoy, which is kind of let's go wide and make people hurt. So yeah, that's kind of my thought on it. Ant, what do you think, man?
Well, man, I didn't think any of you guys were gonna pick that one. Like that was
I'm going to toss out an extra question
man, you can
after,
piggyback.
after
It's
you
fine.
go, Anthony.
So I'm gonna originally I was gonna go Ruby Emerald, but I'm gonna go Amethyst Amber just because the first two guys picked the other one, so I need to be a little different. I don't want it to be a triple way match, you know.
You heard it here first. 4-way multiplayer Ruby Emerald mirror match on the channel.
Yeah, I'm going
That's
with
gonna be insane.
Amethyst Amber because purple and Mickey and
Okay.
No, I
I'm
agree
going to
with
pose a question to the two guys going to GenCon then to mix it up a little bit. So I know what I would pick because we said with what knowledge we know now. So you are willing to take the risk just for the fun of it.
Well,
But
it's
if
randomly assigned.
I know, but here's my question. If you were both given, because we don't have starter deck challenge tickets, we just have the
Learn to Play demo.
learn to play demo tickets. If you were both given a ticket and you got to pick your deck, and we know that there is prize support, correct, for the winners?
Yeah, it's not unknown what it is,
Yeah,
but it's something.
there's something.
There's something.
So if you were to pick which one you think you would win, we don't know. You're taking a huge risk if you pick the one we know nothing about. So you can still choose that. But for the two guys mainly who are going, if somehow they get graced upon a ticket between now and then, somehow, they could pick, even though it would be randomly, but which one would you pick for competitive reasons?
Here, I'm going to give you
A
my
piece to the spikes.
I'm going to give you my basically like the answer you're looking for, but then I'm going to give you my detailed little quick brief response.
Sounds great.
The answer you're looking for is I would pick the Steel Sapphire deck because I'm really hoping it has Fire the Cannons. Okay, but that brings me to my other detailed response. On the images you see, there are some images of the starter deck online. On what if you're looking at the front of the box, on the left-hand side, there is a detailed deck list of the starter decks. So in the images you can see them, it is way too blurry to read. Some people have pored over them for hours. I consider it a waste of time, but I applaud their efforts. The breakdown of the deck technically means that if I get a chance to look at the box before picking, or if I can see a picture of someone who did look at the box before picking, I know the deck lists. So my more detailed response would be, I will pick Amber or Steel Sapphire as long as it has a decent number of Fire the Cannons and Captain Hooks in it. But if it didn't, I would immediately seek someone out who was ignorant of this to trade and get the Ruby Emerald one.
And are you talking the Forceful Duelist Challenger or the other
Yes,
one?
Forceful Duelist Challenger.
Okay.
I want early board contesting.
So I will let it be known, as I've got it pulled up here, that the demos that were used are pared down starter decks. We've had confirmation. Just in the demos, 3 Forceful Duelists and 2 Fire the Cannons. Also 2 Smash, which is a big deal because it's removal. So that would have been my choice. Yeah. Just because of the things I said earlier about Amber Amethyst maybe being 2 separate strategies. I think Amethyst will carry that deck to wins, and Moana may quest for 3 and do something crazy in certain games. But that would have been mine. What about Tyler?
I mean, Jacob, you know me. I'm the type of person that I'll go off a wing and a prayer. It doesn't matter to me.
So you're staying with it?
I think I am actually going to go with personally. If Jacob, if you went with Sapphire Steel, I would be the guy that goes. Yeah,
because I'm saying you get to pick.
You get to pick in your scenario. You would want,
I would go with Emerald Ruby.
Hey, listen, that's my hot take, so I don't blame you. But I had to know just because that reason, since everyone had picked the other guy.
Because if it randomly does, once again, Ravensburger gods, please, if it randomly does have an Aladdin that we don't know about that's red, that changes the entire game.
It also does happen to be the possibility that a Amber Amethyst starter deck, even though the demos didn't have an Amethyst Princess, maybe the starter deck has an Amethyst Princess.
I mean, it's missing 20 cards.
Yeah, so missing information.
It only has 40 cards in the demo. Yeah. And the other good thing about the Ruby Emerald, Tyler, for you is that you know there's an Emerald one with Ward, so it can't be hit by the fire.
Yeah, it's a really, really good card.
This was a point brought up by Sugi on the Lorcana cast on one of his Emerald Inc. episodes, I believe. But it's with that Ruby Emerald setup, if you play for 2 ink, you're Aladdin with Ward, and you don't ever exert him to quest or challenge, there is literally nothing we know of right now that can stop you from shifting him into the bigger Aladdin.
Yeah.
There's nothing. So
it's
if
really
they're scared of the bigger heroic outlaw Aladdin, and you don't ever quest with that Aladdin for a few turns, they have to sit there and just wait for the Aladdin and use the answer on him because there's nothing you can do.
And Emerald could not have half the cards we've seen revealed. Yeah. I mean, it could have like 0 of them. It could have no cats, none of that. And it could just be totally different than what we're thinking. But I'm with you. I would have done the Sapphire Steel just because of what we know. And, you know, the other one we have no idea
Sometimes the unknown.
Hey, no, that's exciting.
Is even more fun.
Sure.
Well,
what we got next?
Now we have, if you are a little less familiar with the ink stuff, we're going to talk about our favorite ink colors, but to set the baseline, we're going to bring up just what DisneyLorcana.com has as a description for each ink type. So we're going to read their brief description, just so everybody's kind of playing with the same information on having an informed opinion on what we're talking about when we say this is our favorite ink. So we'll speak on what our favorite ink is after we've read DisneyLorcana.com's description. So Tyler, you're going to start us off with Amber.
Cool beans. So Amber glimmers. Hold up. Let me get this right. Amber glimmers are purposeful, patient, and dedicated. They're able to pursue causes and ambitions with single-minded persistence. They often work within communities, either from above as a leader or from within as a healer, bodyguard, or just a loyal follower.
Immediately seeing bodyguard. That's interesting. We've yet to see a bodyguard.
Yeah, that is interesting that we haven't seen a bodyguard in that one.
All right, Anthony, you have Amethyst.
Amethyst glimmers are wondrous, for this is the otherworldly ink of sorcerers, sages, animated objects, and other glimmers who use their special powers to achieve their aims. They are incredibly powerful when they have access to their amazing abilities, but may land in trouble if they are stripped of those or tap into power they can't control.
probably the best description of all 6. I'm just going to say, like, describing what the ink, leaning into abilities and stuff. It's pretty sweet. All right.
All right. So I have Emerald. Emerald glimmers are flexible, gifted with the ability to adapt to changing circumstances. They are never caught off guard, quick thinking, but not necessarily book smart. They navigate their environment, whether physical or social, natural or artificial, with ease.
Ooh, so we got some street smart Emerald boys.
Yeah, my favorite part is the not necessarily book smart.
With ease.
All right. So, I Jacob, have Ruby. Ruby glimmers are daring. They use their speed and bravery to defy the odds. They are often warriors, explorers, and daredevils.
Well, that sounds nice. So I, once again, Tyler, have Sapphire. Sapphire glimmers are intellectual, intelligent and creative. They excel at strategy, invention, and the arts. They can almost always know something, plan something, or invent something that will win the day.
Cool.
All right, so I have Steel, and I think this is the shortest one. I can't.
I doubt it. Ruby's
Oh,
pretty short.
never mind.
They're about the same.
Steel glimmers are strong, large and imposing, armored or just plain powerful. Steel glimmers can apply huge amounts of brute force to get their job done.
That's pretty spot on too. Well,
I'm seeing these pictures that are on the bottom section of these.
it teases new cards.
It teaches some other cards that I'm just like,
Yes.
I didn't realize looking at this until just now. And I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
yeah.
there's a Lilo.
check out DisneyLorcana.com if you want to see the descriptions that we just read, because underneath each description there are 3 hexagonal pictures or profile pictures of card art. Some of it we already know, but stuff like Emerald, you have Cusco. In Steel, you see a Lilo. Dude. So there's a lot of new card arts. That, like Amethyst has Evil Queen from from Snow White. So those are all things that kind of tease the future.
Give me a Cusco any day. I want
I'm
to
sure it's going to be in the first chapter.
Now that we've laid down our definitions of what kind of characterizes the inks, Tyler, what is your favorite ink so far? What do you most identify with?
I mean, let's face it. I think I've made myself very clear that Stitch Rockstar is 100% my favorite card in the game, which once again puts it right back into, Amber. Freaking awesome. It's a great color. The overall synergy that Amber has by itself of there's a lot of low cost stuff generally in Amber, and it plays really well off of that of just like, okay, I'm gonna play this 1-drop with Rockstar, I'm gonna exert it, I'm gonna draw. That's the whole point. Amber does drawing very well. So 100% Amber is my color.
All right.
And what you got?
I'm gonna go with Amethyst strictly because it's purple, but like just from the description, you know, like just going off the description, it's like they're gonna have powerful abilities. You know, of course, that also means if you play something like in Magic, what was it, the control-y thing? It was like, Alex, you played it, and it made me so mad. It was like it stripped all abilities and everything, all of that. Oh my gosh! So that's gonna make me very mad. But like, I do like the abilities aspect of it.
Okay. Powerful sorcerer.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, Alex, what about you?
So for me, we're going back to Amber for a different purpose, though. So I heavily like tribal synergies, character synergies.
Oh, yeah.
And Amber is proven to be that color.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Stitch synergizes with low costs. Moana synergizes with princesses. Hades with villains. So I really enjoy that aspect. But the number one thing for me is the value play of recursion. And Amber has the only known recursion so far with 2 cards, the song part of your world and Hades. Both of them get 1 back to your hand.
Technically, Emerald has Lady Tremaine to
Okay,
get
Lady
actions
Tremaine,
back.
yep.
But
And the hook has it can
permanent
get
bodies.
specific, yeah.
Yeah.
But like I said,
Actions only.
character based. So I like that it's character based because it gets you a character back to hand. And you know, if you listen to the first one, the first podcast, I really wanted to bring a character back to the battlefield. Hades would have been the perfect card for that, and they didn't do it. So
We're still working.
I'm hoping in the future we move from back to your hand to the battlefield. I don't care if it costs more, if it's uninkable, whatever.
And
you
who
gotta
knows
do.
what the second set could be?
Exactly.
I was telling this in a conversation.
Play with some fire.
In a conversation I had with Dylan a couple of days ago, I was just mentioning how the first chapter could get blown wide open with possibilities and strategies with your recursion idea. If there was a card that they revealed that brought a card back to the battlefield, well, then you immediately have a great idea to pair that with Steel, because Steel has Tinkerbell, which has on-demand discard. So imagine if that card you say that like brings something back to the battlefield costs 6 ink. Well, now I'm heavily incentivized to discard
That's a good
7,
thought.
8, 9 ink
That's a good
things
thought.
and bring them back for cheap.
And the
So
not
it's
so
a-
hot take is the fact that we have said on multiple occasions that Tinkerbell is trash.
Well, yeah, Tinkerbell, as it stands right now, it's just it lets you see more cards.
Yeah,
technically, but if
that's-
you have an empty hand, which most people do after turn 5 in Lorcana right now, if you have an empty hand, she does nothing
Yep,
for you.
a whole lot of
She's
nada.
just stats and lore. But anyways, my favorite ink is Ruby. Ruby offers me exactly what I'm looking for. It offers me the chance to play big stuff or stuff that is hard to deal with and makes a big splash. It gives you that kind of like when they're talking about daring explorer, adventurer, warrior. It offers you
You
the
big old
chance.
Timmy.
Yeah, it offers you the chance to do something that people go, ooh. And what card do y'all think of whenever you think of a situation where you play a card and someone goes, ooh.
Ooh, Mickey. 100%.
Mickey, Brave Little Tailor?
100%.
That also Maleficent, the
Monstrous Dragon.
Monstrous Dragon.
Yeah.
Oh,
The fact that it has
And-
its action card built into the card
It's flavorful.
is so painful.
And Aladdin Heroic Outlaw. But not to mention, Mickey falls under this thing, but one of the most powerful keywords that I think exists right now is evasive.
100%.
100%.
So evasive, right now, there is a mystery on whether or not Goofy quests for 1 lore or 2 lore or 3 lore. You don't really know. And Tigger could be 1 lore, 2 lore, 3 lore. And they're both Ruby, decently statted, evasive characters. If you have Tigger and Goofy quest for 2 or more each, they start putting a clock on the game. They can freely quest, and it's the only mechanic in the game that makes it difficult to challenge them even. So it forces someone to have the
Removal.
ability to remove it. And you pair that with Sapphire, and it's like you can get ward on an evasive, and there's just nothing you can do.
yeah,
So-
it's a problem.
Yeah, if
So
you're
that-
behind, evasive is not as good. But if you're ahead, it's really
Yeah.
good.
And
Because
that's
it's
the-
like, deal with me. I don't have to use my understated creatures against
Yeah.
you. I just deal with me.
And I feel like the
Can
one
you?
thing that we didn't really talk about as far as the evasive was Pascal.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Pascal, the combo of having 2 Pascals on the board at the same time becomes infinitely harder if you have no removal.
Yeah,
thing
it puts a
the-
clock.
Another thing about Pascal, though, and this guess could have been a hot take, but the more evasive we get, the worse Pascal gets.
True.
That's
so
true.
as the sets go on and on, Pascal's a threat right now because the only other evasive creatures are huge. You got to
Yeah.
pay a lot. So if we get like a 2-drop evasive, that's a 2/2. You know, because they're understated normally or something like that with evasive instead of ward. You
Yeah.
know,
Can we
The same
something
can
like
be
that?
said of like, even if it's like not just mass board wipe,
Yeah.
but just small damage.
yeah,
If
2
you
doll
have-
creatures, 1 doll creatures.
I joked about this on Twitter earlier, like in the spoiler season. If you had a broom that was Ruby and the broom was a sweeper,
Yeah.
like a 3 ink broom 1/1 that when it comes into play, deal 1 damage to 3 characters or something like that, cards like Pascal become much, much less
Or
safe.
1 damage to all characters, so
Or-
it hurts
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
On, like maybe not it, all other
Oh, kind of like
characters.
the Hearthstone.
Yeah.
Like, oh gosh, which card is that?
Arcane explosion. There's a
Yeah,
spell that does 1 to everything.
stuff like
Or
that.
the-
Though it does 1 to all.
yeah,
It's
the- or
little.
the,
It's
the
terrible
creature
stats.
that
I'm not sure. I can't
It-
think of
it came- it
I've
came
been
out
so
in the
out of
original.
Hearthstone for a while.
Yeah, it came out in the original set of Hearthstone. It is the one that, like, when you play a spell,
Yeah.
it deals 1 damage to everything,
Yeah.
but it also kills itself.
Well, that brings us to our next topic, which is what ink combination are you most excited to build? So I kind of spoiled my own answer for a little bit a second ago, but favorite ink being Ruby. The synergy is obvious with giving that Ruby character protection and ward. So Ruby Sapphire is the color combination that I'm most excited to build my own little brew of it. It has ink acceleration right now, so you can get more ink or get extra ink per turn with things like One Jump Ahead or Mickey Mouse Detective. But I'm hoping we get better ink acceleration than that,
For sure.
because that would actually give you a reason to actually play those higher end cost characters. Because right now it's kind of tough to hope to ever play a Mickey Mouse Brave Little Tailor
Right.
if your opponent's playing a bunch of brooms and they're going wide. But that's my color combination I'm most excited to build, hopefully with new little tools that we haven't seen yet. Ruby Sapphire. What about you?
I feel like I spoiled my own early on, but I think the color combination that I'm really looking forward to kind of testing out and seeing how it works together is Amber Emerald. I think that's a combination that has been very untapped, and it's all because we just don't have enough cards in Emerald yet to be able to reasonably put together some sort of deck or anything that would even remotely resemble something good. Yeah. So I think that color combination has a lot of potential with good deck acceleration as far as like drawing cards with Stitch, while also having really good solid single target removal in the green. I think that combination really works for it.
Okay. Anthony, what's a color combination that you're looking forward to, like, seeing what it can do for you?
Anything purple.
Anything purple. I'm gonna go with Amethyst Ruby solely because of the Mickey Mouse with the Wayward Sorcerer and Aladdin.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I contemplated that exact same color combination, but it falls under the same category as Amber Emerald, where there's just not enough cards out in Ruby for it to like really do anything just yet.
You can go for like an evasive strategy too,
Right.
with Pascal. Okay.
Some
Alex,
good
what
stuff.
about you? What combination speaks to you?
Well, we know Amber's my favorite color, so that's part of it.
Sorry, bud.
I'm looking forward to pairing it with Amethyst the most. In playtesting, I was one of the ones who built the villain deck, and I enjoyed the heck out of it. It's one of those things that the Hades, King of Olympus, right now he may be too high statted for actual play if you get into competitive. I was running 2 in my deck when we playtested because I think 4 was overkill, but I like the Amethyst side of the value that Amethyst brings along with the value that Amber brings. So the songs, being able to sing Friends on the Other Side with Hades. I mean, Hades, you put it on the battlefield, you got something back. Next turn, you sing Friends on the Other Side with it. That was great value. So the only thing we really need for those 2 colors is the removal. With removal, I could see that deck being increased in its power level because then it could deal with threats without just using the challengers and
For sure.
and the brooms and stuff. But that's the most excited for me, just all the recursion and the value train.
It's hard for me to imagine, based on the way Amber and Amethyst have set up their ink identities, it's hard for me to imagine what removal would look like in those colors. Because Amber is so like, I'm going to build my board, ideally. And Amethyst is so, I use strong abilities. So maybe like Amethyst could have like an exert to banish a character on some like high body or
like
something.
that. Especially because it deals a lot with characters. Like you
Yeah.
have, right now, basically all you have is Elsa exerting a character by exerting her and then challenging it. So just some sort of...
And there's some really good challengers.
There's no actions in either of those 2 for removal, and I think some sort of action, even if it's not as good as like some of the other inks, just an action to deal with it. I like that green got the reckless, because I think that works well with them. Because it's like, okay, attack me.
Yeah.
Have this situation. These are kind of like you say, maybe you have to exert a character, or maybe it's a song. You exert it, sing it, hit something.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping they get those. I feel like every ink should have a little bit of everything from the beginning. So hopefully, or you have to pair it with.
You could always go
another
the design route of like, I think every color should have what it's really good at, but it can kind of do like the basics of a TCG inefficiently. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you could always have like technically a strictly bad removal in Amber. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or just a not great removal in Amber.
All right. Well, that is our last like homemade section or segment for the podcast. We're going to move on to our final segment, which is our Ready Set Live mailbag. every single week before we record, we always send off our or send out a message saying we're going to be going over a Q&A section, getting a mailbag section to kind of get the community's questions for us to answer with our perspective. So be on the lookout for those tweets, those YouTube community posts, and hopefully you can get your question in. We're going to cover 2 of them today. We ain't driving. Let's make it 3. So we're going to cover 3 questions. Let's start with the question you have prepared, Alex.
Okay. Are we saying who it's from?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So, Nick, I'm so sorry if I butcher your last name, but it's Nick. Well, how would you say that?
I would say
Gagalis?
Gagalis.
Gagalis. Nick Gagalis. Like I said, I apologize for butchering it probably. So, Nick's question was, which ability appears to be the most underrated right now? Which is the most overrated? And what would you have changed in the unknown half of the set for either of these cards to not remain underrated or overrated anymore?
Okay, so just to be clear, what keyword is overrated and underrated, right?
Yes, it says ability, but keywords, stuff like that.
what
So ability.
Okay. All right.
One of the things you were talking about was like evasive being
Yes.
really, really good.
I
So
think
do you think it's overrated, underrated?
I think evasive, from what I've seen discussion-wise, a lot of people agree that
Okay.
evasive is very strong. I personally believe that reckless is very strong because reckless gives, I think it is underrated.
Yeah.
Underrated. Because the Beast is Mine at 3 ink, I think a lot of people looked at that, giving a character reckless or giving a opposing character reckless or whatever character for 3 ink, giving it reckless, thinking that was like a underwhelming card. But I think that's a straight up playable card because you think about what you can use reckless on some really heavy hitters, things that don't have high strength and are very, very impactful. If you can force an Aurora Dreaming Guardian to challenge, or you can force a Moana
Mickey
to
Brave
challenge,
Little Taylor.
a Mickey Brave Little Taylor, things like that are very, very strong. So I think that is a flexible answer that is kind of underrated currently at the moment. So I kind of covered an underrated one. Does anybody have an overrated keyword or ability, even if it's an ability? On a card?
Yeah, ability. Anyone have an overrated ability?
Overrated ability. I think sometimes Challenger can be semi overrated. I think that it's a great keyword. I think it does a lot of great things, and there are certain cards that are great because they have Challenger.
Good Challenger.
Yeah. But there's so many that are just like, meh, okay, sure, whatever. Like, I love Dr. Facilier, but I think he's super overrated as just a character.
I don't even think he's that good, and I think I even overrate him a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I 100% I have put him in a deck and been like, okay, yeah, no, this is good. You know, it's a 2-drop, it's whatever. But then like I actually challenge with him, and I'm like, oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Like, why can't you have any sort of residual stat of actual like power?
Punchback.
Yeah, because if you swing at somebody and great, you deal 2, that's awesome. They're gonna wipe that Dr. Facilier off the face of the planet super quick.
Yeah. So I think with Challenger in particular, one of the things that makes it overrated, to speak to your point, is you have to quest to win the game.
Yeah.
And people get really excited. I mean, I know I do. When I see a Captain Hook Forceful Duelist in my opening hand, I'm sweating because it's going to be a good time, and I don't know how I'm going to handle it. But hear me out.
Okay.
He is one of the only examples of a card that I actively want to challenge with because he becomes such a favorable trade to challenge with. Jafar is kind of a close second, but when a card has Challenger on it, I worry for newer players that they see the word Challenger +2 and they immediately think, well, I got to challenge with it. I have to. That's what the card says. When really, more often than not, the correct play is to go on and quest. Get yourself closer to the win. Get yourself home quicker with the win in your pocket. It'll be better if you quest in most scenarios. It's just those very finite examples of when Challenger's worth it.
Nice. No, those are good examples.
All right.
What's the next question?
The next question is from Dylan Lane on Twitter. Someone
my
we've referenced earlier, another friend of ours. We're not showing favoritism here. He just has a good question. What are some obvious effects, abilities, etc., that you see as missing in the game? can the cards revealed so far give us a hint as to what's coming?
So I'm going to start. We've alluded to this already a little bit. Board wipe. I think that is missing big time. I think most of the community would agree that's missing big time. That is probably the biggest and most missed one for me. Ability wise, I could see what else would be missing ability wise.
Well, I think one of the things I do frequently when I try to imagine and speculate what could be coming in this game is I think with the way keywords are kind of bold in this game, it reminds me a lot of Hearthstone and Magic. Just what keywords do they have? It could lead themselves to being usable in Lorcana. And one of the keywords that I have not seen that I've seen in Magic is even altering the costs of cards. Like you can play this for 3 ink, or you can, like the song kind of introduced this, you can pay 1 ink. It just has a lesser effect.
Yeah.
Kind of like Kicker.
Another
stuff like
ability that you made me think of just now is being the graveyard, recursion player that I like is sacrificing.
Oh.
Having to sacrifice your permanents to get a value, not just sing a song or anything, sacrifice to get value.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that obviously we've seen one of, and I would like to see more of, is anthem effects.
Oh, okay.
Obviously we've already got we've got Aurora.
Yeah.
That has the anthem effect of give every other creature ward. But things like,
the Mickey Mouse gives +1/+1 to all musketeers, but like that.
Yeah, but
more spread.
Yeah, but more spread out. Like there's only so many cards that actually do things like that, and it's not even like that's not even specifically an anthem ability.
It's anthem for musketeers.
Yeah,
only.
it's a stackable ability that obviously musketeers can take advantage of, but overall there's not a whole lot out there. And like I think a really cool one would be an anthem rush for either
giving your characters rush on like every character you play has rush.
Like this turn.
Yeah, every
like
other like you could play it and it gives everything rush for that turn. Or
given how White Rabbit's Pocket Watch works, having to pay 1 ink just to give one character rush, I would imagine that an anthem rush effect would be expensive.
Oh yeah, it'd be like like a comeback mechanic if they're about to win type.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean we've seen things very similar to that in Magic and in Hearthstone, but like Magic in particular of things like Finale of Devastation, where obviously you give everything haste, or in some cases Crater Hoof, where you give everything just a beefy boost. And obviously we have something similar to that in Mulan, where if you banish a card, it gives everything an extra +1 lore. But I think that obviously that is something that would be fun to see more of if we could get it. Like do I expect it to come? Maybe not in this first set, but definitely within like at least the first, maybe the second or the third set for sure.
Okay, so a keyword that I'm interested to see, I'm not even sure how they would do it, is like trample from Magic. How would they even?
I have an idea of how that could happen.
That's a good one.
That is really good.
So
I
trample.
like that.
So I guess we need to first explain what trample is.
That's true. That's true. Do you have a definition for trample?
Oh, it's a long one.
He's ready.
So it's a keyword ability found on creatures. Trample allows a creature to deal excess combat damage to the player it's attacking, even if the creature is blocked.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So my mind immediately goes to, how does that go to Lorcana? Because Lorcana is not a I'm gonna kill you game.
Yeah.
Lorcana is I'm gonna win game.
What if it, this is my tidbit you can add to, what if it drains like Aladdin does? So any excess damage is done as a drain effect.
Okay.
Or just removes, I mean, because we do need more abilities to slow your opponent down instead of it just being a race.
Oh yeah.
So with Aladdin doing the drain, maybe it goes, well,
you just
anything
lose
excess, say it's a 3 and you have a 2 willpower, the excess is 1, you lose 1 lore. I mean, that would be huge.
That would be very scary too for the higher powered characters.
And a lot of them would be understated in the willpower and overstated in the attack.
Yeah.
So they probably would only
one
get
use.
1, maybe 2, depending on. I mean, but if they're a go wide strategy, they got a bunch of 1/1s and 2/2s. Maybe you get 2 off of it.
Yeah. So
and it'd have to be when you challenge.
Yeah, so
or
you're
the difference in lore. Instead of just difference in willpower, it'd be a difference in the lore count. So like when you swing into like when you challenge something and that particular character's lore is 2 and the other character's lore is,
I see what you're
say
saying.
like it's a Mickey and
it's
it's got
the quest.
4, and then obviously the difference is 2, you lose that many lore.
I could see that. The variation of how much lore you lose scares me because I think of like from a game design perspective, if I have like
Yeah.
a really heavy stat stick with 1 lore because that's just balanced card design,
Right.
then it immediately says, well, hit his brave little tailor and make him cry. But I could see the keyword wanting to be consistent. That's the whole reason you bold words in the first place, is because they're
Right.
going to be consistent across multiple cards. And so to keep things consistent, I could see, much like to your point, Alex, when this character banishes another character
In a challenge.
in a challenge, they lose 1 lore.
Yeah.
Like that's just a flat, it has this keyword. You could call it something like
Drain.
overwhelming or something. This card has overwhelming.
And even like, you know, it could be up to 2 lore on certain things too.
Mm-hmm.
Just like it has, you know, because there's some keywords like
yeah.
it's this
overwhelm
word too.
1, overwhelm 2. I could totally see
because
that.
with Aladdin being a 7 drop or a 5 shift, it has that, but it drains. But these could just, like you say, just make them lose.
Yeah.
Or just
and it'd be
drain
different.
1 or drain 2.
Yeah,
I could see that I think
that'd be
if you,
very cool.
It would be very cool.
It needs to be in the game to slow things down a little bit
Yeah.
for the controller decks.
I just worry personally with the way they have set up the game
Yeah.
to be
Not
like very
attacky.
like not challengey, attacky. Challenger's one thing, but like the way you're encouraged to try to build up your win condition and your opponent can interact with you, but I wonder how much or how hesitant they are to introduce effects that say slow down.
I would
Get rid of your lore.
100% agree, except for Aladdin.
That's true.
If
Yeah.
Aladdin wasn't in the game, I'd be like, you're right. They're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not going to do it. It's going to be a
Yeah.
while before
Man, that was
everyone's
a
like,
great pick.
But
Andy.
we need to
Aladdin
do it.
exists.
So yeah,
Yeah.
but Aladdin exists. So it is out there, me slowing
Right.
my opponent and helping me out. So that was a very good one.
And then an ability that I was thinking about or looking forward to is some sort of like exert and negate this ability or disable
Yes,
this ability.
removing other people's
Yeah.
abilities that's another really
Man.
good one.
Or so you
Everybody, I
exert
wish
a
I could Men in
character.
Black memory wipe everyone for my answer and just say what Anthony said.
yeah, for real.
My answer sucked.
Dylan, great questions. That's all I can say.
That
Great
ability, I think, is very similar to Elsa, but I think the overall ability could be expounded a little bit more on the Elsa side. So instead of just like, oh, I tap this on my turn, it's I exert this character and I tap I exert yours and it doesn't untap during
like
your-
Magic's
your
blue,
ready.
blue like freeze
Yeah,
effect.
it
essentially.
doesn't unexert until you're next.
Yeah,
next.
Right.
next.
Right.
Yeah, you skip your ready step
Right.
essentially.
Right.
That would be great.
Have to be worded properly, but I
Yeah.
get what you're saying.
All right, so our final mailbag question is from Citizens of Lorcana. He was actually the first question we got asked in response to the Q&A. He says, how should someone best prepare for the GenCon starter deck challenge? So even though we are not in it ourselves, as we know now, I still feel like
Still
I can
sad.
give a couple little bits of advice for this. For one, the majority of people you're playing against, whether you realize it or not, are probably not going to be nearly as experienced as you if you are listening to a Lorcana podcast in the beginning of June. It is probably more likely the case that the person you're going up against is a first-time Lorcana player, or they looked at Lorcana stuff on their way to Gen Con that week because they're excited about the tickets they just got, but they're really more focused on the Warhammer stuff they're doing on Saturday. So you're probably going to be better off if you're listening to podcasts like this and other podcasts beforehand. But the general advice would be you want to practice mulliganing an opening hand with your known cards that you know are in the deck as much as possible to sculpt a good turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. Because in Lorcana, getting an early start to questing and getting an early jump in the lead with lore is invaluable. It sets you up so heavily. And what is the one thing that you know you're going to do every single game? You're going to mulligan.
Yes.
So if you mulligan poorly because you haven't tried to figure out what the best opening 7 would be, and you don't know exactly what you're looking for, then you're really setting yourself up for failure because you're just kind of saying, I'll get what I get. and you're leaving things to chance when you have everything right now that you need to kind of have a good guess on what a good opening hand would be. And that is the single most impactful moment of the entire game as far as single things go.
I 100% agree. Like, I'm not going to add much more besides know the type matchups of the 3 decks. I know we don't know the Ruby Emerald much yet, but we kind of know what those colors do. So we know to hard mulligan for certain things depending on your type matchup.
Yeah.
So I think that's all I have to add to that, but that was a really good answer.
And if you want to learn those things, if you want to learn how to really kind of mitigate some of that knowledge, definitely go check out the deck tech. Obviously not the deck tech itself, but like the idea behind it. Yeah, the idea behind the deck tech is super important. So go watch at least the second half of that video, and then 100% go check out Lorcana Lessons 1 and 2 to really understand like characters and the actions and the items, and kind of get yourself acclimated to the idea of what those cards do, how they interact, what they do to your opponent, what they help you do to get you to victory. And all of those things will definitely be a 100% help to get you at least maybe to a top 8.
Yeah, something cool too is by the time this podcast releases, I'm almost certain that episode 3 of Lorcana Lessons will be live on YouTube.
For sure.
And that one is all about how to deck build and the thought behind it. Doesn't as much pertain to the starter deck challenge, but episode 4 is going to be about starting a game, the mulliganing process, that stuff like that. So you kind of got a little bit of an early peek as to what the advice will be for, how to best start your game. So
if you watch to the end, you've been rewarded.
You've been rewarded, yes, with some key info. All right. Well, that wraps up our segments. Thank you so much for all the mailbag participants. We will be sending out another tweet for the Ready Set Live episode 3 mailbag, soon to be announced what those when that tweet will be. But please send more questions in. Hopefully we got yours. And if not, it's not like we can't repeat questions if the question's still relevant 1 week later. So we're going to send it out. Go ahead, take us out, Tyler.
Yeah. So, guys, thanks so much for coming in and listening to all of us rant and rave about Lorcana, because that's what we're here to do. We enjoy the game. We're really excited for the future of this game, and the future that we have is being a part of this game. If you could, like, subscribe, share the video, definitely comment as much as you can down below. Tell us what you liked, tell us what you didn't. We're all about interacting with the community as much as we can. We really enjoy all the love and support that we've gotten thus far, and we really do we really do appreciate you guys as a community. So that's it. Ready, set, draw, TCG. Signing out.